Hello everyone. In today's grammar lesson, we learn about punctuation. Punctuations are necessary to clearly express our thoughts in writing. When we read a sentence, there is only so many units we can pay attention to at a time before we start losing the context. In any sentence, punctuation helps us to organize the words into cognitively manageable units. It helps to define the logical structure of a sentence. We'll be covering the topic of punctuation in two parts, but only dealing with the essentials. Here are the main punctuation symbols used in written sentences. Period. We use a period to mark the end of a statement. A sentence isn't finished without it. If the sentence is a question, we use a question mark instead of a period. If it's exclamatory, we use the exclamation point. This symbol is also used in abbreviations, for example, doctor, etc., MD, comma. Commas generally represent a brief pause in a sentence which is not final like a period. Commas and periods are the most commonly used punctuation marks. We also use commas to separate words in a list of 3 or more items. It's also used after a dependent clause that precedes an independent clause in a sentence. For example, if you'd like to learn more, contact us. We also use comma to set off non-essential information from the main sentence. For example, John, who's a friend of mine, is a manager at that branch. Question marks. We use question marks only after a direct question. It replaces a period symbol at the end of such sentences. Exclamation points. An exclamation point is used to express emotion, emphasis, and surprise. It replaces a period at the end of a sentence. Exclamation points should be avoided in formal business writing. Semicolon. The semicolon is a symbol used to signal a pause longer than a comma but shorter than a period. It's also used to mark two independent clauses in a sentence that have no conjunction between them. For example, he was tired. He kept going anyways. But we don't use a semicolon after a dependent clause. We use a comma instead. For example, staying hopeful, he held his ground. Semicolons are never used as a substitute for a colon. A colon is generally used in a sentence just before an item or a series of items are introduced. For example, there's only one way to get better. Practice. I'll need the following: paper plates, spoons, and napkins. We also use a colon to list items one by one. For example, these are the steps to success: plan, execute, take feedback, repeat. We use letters, numbers, or bullet points to list the items. Colon is also used just before a full sentence quotation. For example, he replied, "This is going to be my greatest performance." So that completes our first part of our lesson on punctuation. Next time we'll cover quotation marks, hyphens, apostrophes, slashes, parentheses, and brackets. Hope you found this lesson useful. See you next week.